purposes. So we can have this available and etc. So just be aware, this Teams call will be recorded. This is a regular Teams call. This is not a fancy Teams Live or anything like this. We are going to moderate Q&A as we do on the webinars through the chat. And I will, just to keep it moving, we have a few things to go over today. I will keep it moving, but we'll have Q&A toward the end. But this audience, this community is so good about sending questions in the chat, just asking intelligent questions and providing, it could be links, it could be commentary. So please keep that up through the call. The VFI crew will monitor and moderate those questions as we go through the call. So why don't I go ahead and first welcome everyone to the call. Thank you for joining. We had quite a few people sign up for this call. We know that we have a lot more options these days of joining webinar calls, since it's the only thing we know how to do as far as meeting people and gathering in meetings. But today's call is with Microsoft Philanthropies, and we're focused on educational initiatives. We're going to hear about resources that are available to small business owners, to Microsoft partners, to the tech community at large. We will talk about the Teals program and the need for volunteers, especially now. And we will also talk about some tools and resources, and I won't steal the thunder of Andrea and Amy, but we will focus on education today and some of the learnings from what I would call the new normal of remote learning. And I'm sure if you could raise your hands, you would say, I have kids at home that I'm trying to keep up with their homework or learning calculus all over again, which I never learned, I have to admit. Okay, so I also want to clarify VFI's mission, Voices for Innovation. Many of you may be new to the call, but our mission is to empower technology advocates to engage in policy actions that are important to the tech community, to engage in civic activities, including philanthropic engagement in your community. Today, the call to action will be, and everyone knows who's joined this call, there's always a call to action. Our call to action today is to donate laptop devices. If you are a Microsoft partner, if you can donate in bulk, we're going to tell you how to do that. We have a very special third party on the call. I'm going to introduce them at the end of the call and ask them to just speak for 1 minute. It is a nonprofit e-cycler based in Seattle, and they are very high up in the Microsoft stack. There's a lot of good Microsoft folks that have joined this great cause. We will talk about that toward the end of the call, but we desperately need laptops to go to school programs and students during this time. So get ready for that call to action. We will get into that a little bit later. What I would like to do at 3:06 is turn it over to Andrea and Amy. Andrea and Amy, you have what I would call the screen or the whiteboard, whatever you want to call it. Please introduce yourselves, and it's all yours.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to start off by saying I'm one of those people who have 2 children at home. I am relearning calculus and doing some chemistry as well. So if you hear some kids in the background asking me for money or my dog barking, I apologize. I don't understand how they are locked at home and still need money all of the time. I just want to confirm, thumbs up if you can see, oh, my thumb is not coming into view. Thumbs up if you can see the computer screen okay with the sharing of the slides. Awesome. Thank you, guys. So my name is Andrea Russo. I am the East Regional Manager Lead for Microsoft Philanthropies Teals program. We sit in Skills for Employability. So my role is to help build and grow sustainable, inclusive computer science programs from the eastern half of the United States. And also would like to introduce you to Amy Rosado. Amy?
Hi, everybody. I am the associate RM lead for the East region. So I help Andrea, and I also kind of manage our program for New York City metro area. So we've got about 50 schools in New York and New Jersey, and I'm also supporting South Carolina schools. So we're here to talk about Microsoft's philanthropic response to COVID-19. We're going to kind of give an upper level at first, talk a little bit about public health, nonprofit support, LinkedIn responses, and then we're going to kind of zoom in on skills for employability. As David mentioned, that's where Andrea and I sit, and we are deeply involved in an educational program, so we're kind of going to zoom in there. So first of all, with regards to supporting public health and fighting COVID-19, Microsoft released a COVID-19 tracker using real-time data. So if you go to bing.com/COVID, you can, kind of see the cases in your area. Microsoft's healthcare bot is also the bot that is powering the CDC's chatbot. So, and some other countries' international chatbots for, people when they're checking in about their symptoms and where to go to a nearest testing site. Microsoft is actually powering those things. And then just as an interesting fact, as device donations were kind of pouring in, healthcare providers got priority access to those for the, at the beginning of the COVID-19 situation, just because of the need in these times. In terms of nonprofit support, Microsoft Philanthropies has been helping nonprofits transition to remote work, as everybody is doing. A big part of this for nonprofits, a lot of them are, volunteer powered, helping teach nonprofits the tools and resources to keep them connected to their volunteer base so that they can continue to do their mission-driven work. And then in terms of helping with funding, if Microsoft was helping a nonprofit with some kind of programmatic grant, some of those grants have shifted to just supporting operational costs during these times.
Additionally, we'll be seeing some interesting announcement happening in May within Skills for Employability. So please stay in touch and stay in tune for that exciting announcement that will be happening really soon.
So there's also been a lot of really exciting things going on with LinkedIn, which some of you may have seen as you've been just on LinkedIn in the past couple of weeks. They have this really cool coronavirus resource hub. So for healthcare workers and essential workplaces, they're actually providing 3 free months of free job posting and talent insights. They also have recruiters that are helping, LinkedIn recruiters that are helping these essential workplaces fill, where they have the most pressing needs on the front lines of people who are fighting the virus. And then in terms of kind of thinking about the job market and reskilling, LinkedIn Learning is offering many free courses just to help people upskill and just navigate the job market in these times now that, the labor market has, very much shifted.
So another major attribute that we're doing is we are supporting schools as well as local businesses with Teams. So within Teams, we are allowing schools to have a 6-month free subscription to Teams, which is where we are here today. The great thing about Teams is you can have these fabulous backgrounds added in, but it also is a space that is private for the students so that we don't have to worry about some PII that's happening with some concerns that might be addressed with that. There's also training and workshops that are available not only for schools, but parents, educators, in order to help train how to use those tools. There's also additional office materials that are available for small businesses as well as educators, depending on the size of the organization. O365, there is PowerPoint, Excel, Word, Power BI reports. And again, same thing, there are individuals who can help assist small business owners as well as medium business owners. If you are large, there are different packages that are available, and there are people who can help support you to onboard you in how to best use that resource in this new virtual environment. The other really exciting thing that is happening across from our Microsoft stores is these virtual graduations that are beginning to be organized. It is quite unfortunate if this year you are a graduating senior, whether that's from high school or college, because, you know, think about your own high school graduation and that like moment, and it's kind of just implanted in your memory. So within Microsoft Teams and Live in most instances, we are supporting a select number of schools in order to do a virtual graduation. For additional schools, there will be the offering with not as much support, but the idea is using the Teams, you can have a commencement speech, you could still have a salutatorian speak. Students can still decorate their hats, as well as using Flipgrid in order to actually walk the stage in order to have the graduation, which is something I'm really excited about. This is one of those major challenges that we're seeing on the education front, is that we need a way to connect with individuals and for students to feel so less isolated. And so having those types of resources. I've also heard of Minecraft offering up some of their additional free resources to help support graduations in China. In fact, they created a virtual Minecraft graduation, which was really cool to be able to see students were able to make their own little avatars. They were able to walk. Some of the other things that a lot of the stores are doing is they are doing these free workshops for educators, small businesses, and for students. This example on the PowerPoint is from some workshops that are happening in the Boston office. So it is very tailored based on the regions and the needs. And there's also links that ask you if there's additional support that you would need, and they are open to doing different trainings and tutorials, as well as hearing ideas for what the local community needs to best support them. So what we're doing within Philanthropies with the Teals program, I'm going to kick it over to Amy to talk a little bit more about the Teals program.
So with Teals, our mission is to have computer science in every high school. We all know the importance of STEM education, and specifically computer science, just in terms of, you know, the career options for folks and just to be able to, you know, make a difference in the world. Computer science education is super important. But a lot of teachers don't have a background in computer science. So what Teals does is we support teachers through year-long partnerships where we pair them with volunteers from industry, so that they're able to get support with curriculum and just content knowledge. And little by little, those teachers feel more and more comfortable teaching on their own. So we work with teachers, you know, sometimes from 1 to 4 years until they're ready to independently teach their course. And, you know, as David mentioned, right now is that kind of our volunteer recruitment season. We're recruiting volunteers, but also in light of COVID, we're also currently supporting our schools, our current schools. This transition has been bumpy for many schools, but for our our schools using our remote model, this we've been doing for about 8 years. This image is from one of our remote classrooms. Instead of going in to help a teacher in person, some of our classrooms actually use software to help support a teacher, and they teach remotely. So you know, this is especially important in rural areas and in areas where there aren't in-person volunteers. And what's been really interesting, when a lot of schools have, you know, shut down and shifted to remote, our remote classrooms haven't actually experienced as much of a disruption. So those computer science classes are going well. But also just for our regular classes, for example, Hanahan High School in Charleston, South Carolina is being supported by Chris Mitchell and a number of volunteers from Blackbaud. And, you know, they have basically just shifted and helped their classroom teacher move to remote tools. So, you know, making different video clips and extra resources so that students can continue their computer science education outside of the classroom. But one thing we wanted to talk about is that this shift to remote definitely exposes like the digital divide. So some schools And some communities and families have access to devices and broadband, and some do not. So for some students, it's easier than others to keep up with schoolwork. And I'm going to pass it off to Andrea to talk a little bit more about that.
So when we're thinking about this digital divide, I kind of see it in about 3 different buckets. And so one, we have the actual content knowledge. And so where teachers and parents are having difficulty supporting their student because this is something new that they haven't ever experienced before. And so that's where the stores as well as online resources are there, as well as we have this guide to remote instruction to help support, get that content level knowledge and get them up and geared up. The second issue that we commonly see is access to broadband. And so, you know, how often you're in a call, even with your own colleagues, and all of a sudden, you know, who can't have on their camera, or, you know, there's different concerns because they don't have the connectivity that they need. So one thing that we've been working on with rural communities is this access to broadband using TV white space. So in light of COVID, we are doing additional outreach to help support more communities. So one of the really fun things I heard is in Boston, we have hot spots at local libraries. And so, you know, there is a van that's sitting in the parking lot of the library. And so you can go with your laptop if you don't have connectivity at home, and you can connect into this hotspot so that you are able to do your schoolwork or even your work and have that access that you might need. There's also that digital offering. So again, with that disconnect between those digital literacy skills, there is professional development that is being offered to help remove some of that digital divide and be able to connect the resources that people need. Definitely looking for more support with promotion. So there are about 400 companies that are supporting this. We can drop in a link to additional benefits for this and some resources that you can have. But this is just one of those other ways you can advocate to allow connectivity, especially for schools in rural communities. Upstate New York, you know, you think of New York and it's completely connected. But, you know, when you're going into the Putnam Valley or going into Columbia Valley or going more north, it is very different than when we're talking about New York City. Even in New York City, you look into some of the more economically disadvantaged, and they also have connectivity issues. So it is important to, you know, help connect. The last major concern that we do here is the connectivity for and access to devices. One thing I did want to ask all of you is, what are some of the resources related to COVID or more broadly that would be helpful to your work, including and then when you add it into the list, if you can include your city and state, just so we have a really good snapshot of what are the local communities really looking for to help engage and support. One thing, just as you guys are kind of going into this polling result, so if you go to pollev.com, this is the password to join on the web, Andrea Russo 235, or if you could do it via text message, so you just text Andrea Russo 235, and then you text in 22333, and then you can put in your response. Oh, I guess it's restarting for us. I guess we're getting some responses. So one thing that is happening for schools and communities is we have the CARES Act, which is really exciting, and the money is beginning to trickle down in order to support local schools as well as small businesses. And so as you guys are some of the linchpins in your local community, especially when it comes to technology, you might be asked to join a task force or help assist in guiding in how to use these resources for the CARES Act. And if you are, I would strongly consider doing it, because this is going to help, and your intrinsic knowledge that you have about the technology community will help guide where this funding should go, or how the different schools and small businesses can better leverage what resources are available to them. I'm having, of course, let's see if David grabs control. I'm going to kick it over to David to talk a little bit more about devices. And in the meantime, I'll see if I can grab the poll results and see what you guys are really looking to help support for your local community.
Great. Let me the chat box has been very busy. We've had a lot of responses on Teals. People need devices for kids, I should say for students. We've talked a little bit about Airband. The wonderful Eddie Bader from IAMCP has chimed in on a couple of things. He's our new IAMCP president. We are working closely together, and I do want to give a shout out to the Voices for Innovation Advisory Task Force. These are our top tier elite advocates. Frank, Eddie, I could go through the list, but I wanted to thank you, Sally Ehrenfried from Blackbaud, Ryan Risley. There's a ton of our good friends, Marion Breeze, RJ, a lot of have joined this call, and we thank you for your engagement. So what I wanted to do is spend the last few minutes before we go to Q&A. We would like to roll out a device donation drive. And here's what we hope to do. We hope to get folks that have surplus inventory. These can be devices that are less than 7 years old, in working order, hopefully with power cords. We hope that if you will go through your supply closets or go to headquarters, however large or small your business is, whether it's 1 unit or 1,000, we need devices to go to students. I'm sure that Amy and Andrea can talk about the needs of certainly Teals students, but the education community at large. All these folks are at home now. They're sharing devices. We are in great need of devices. And while I'm talking, I do some of the learnings from, I know Andre is learning calculus and chemistry now, but we love these stories of what we are learning from home, from our kids, from the way that we are being taught. But right now it's really hard to do without devices in the hands of students that need them. So let me what we would like to propose. We have identified a vendor called Interconnection. They are based in Seattle. They are a nonprofit, and they recycle, or they're called an e-cycler, if I could. I believe the president, Cheryl Rowe, is on this call. She has agreed to just say 1 minute of remarks. I think she has some of her team on the call as well. We've been talking with Interconnection for the last week or so at a furious pace, trying to nail down details of a device donation drive. Let me explain quickly how it works. We encourage Microsoft partners, large and small, to connect with Interconnection and work out an arrangement to get your surplus inventory, if you have any, to Interconnection. You guys can work out the shipping. I'm not sure how all this works, but partners are used to doing this. I've talked to a number of partners that have surplus inventory. Some have varying degrees of devices in working order. Some have to pull their hard drives out. There's so many details involved in device refurbishment, donation. There's licensing rights involved. There's all kinds of things that we have learned, this team has learned over the past 2 weeks. But I encourage you to send devices and work with Interconnection. And I also want to say there are other vendors that might be in your local community that might serve the same purpose. Human IT is based in Los Angeles. I know Eddie Bader mentioned that entity to me on a call last week. And if I could, Cheryl, are you on the call? If you can unmute and give us a word or two about Interconnection and what you do.
This is actually Anthony, one of her team members. She's running into some technical issues, but asked me to speak briefly.
Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Pleasure. Happy to be here. So Interconnection is a 501c3 and operates as a social enterprise. Our mission is to bridge the digital divide. We do that by providing access to technology to both underserved communities and other nonprofits across the nation. That's accomplished by being part of the registered Microsoft Refurbisher program, So we accept donations of used computers that we then re-image with Windows, Office, and then make them available back to the community at reduced prices.
Very good.
Mhm.
Listen, I don't want to cut you off, Anthony, and I also believe that what you do also includes the refurbishing process, also includes a warranty. It's basically like having a brand new computer, if I'm not mistaken.
You're completely correct. We do offer a 1-year warranty on the majority of our units. We have techs on hand to provide support. Our main goal is to make sure people stay connected.
And Anthony, I know your crew is working around the clock during COVID to get these devices cleaned up. Cheryl was telling me about a triple pass device wipe. I know that's to erase the hard drive, but I know that you're taking safety precautions related to COVID safety protocols and that kind of thing. And I'm not here to get into the details of how devices get wiped and how devices might get to the loading dock of Interconnection, but I would encourage partners. And Doug, if you would flash up the Interconnection website URL, whatever we can do to get this in the hands of partners, we would appreciate that.
It's in the chat right now.
Very good, thank you. And Anthony, I do want to thank you for joining the call. Please thank Cheryl and your team. I know we have some Microsoft folks that have joined Interconnection in the Seattle area. Thank you for doing that. And feel free to reach directly out to Interconnection. I also believe Eddie Bader is on the call. Eddie and I have spoken at very high level. I'm not making a commitment for Eddie, but Eddie, I know you're on the call. If you would like to say a few words about perhaps joining forces with VFI so IAMCP and VFI can work together on this initiative.
Hey, David, thanks. I appreciate it. Absolutely. I think we have an opportunity to do some good work here and a responsibility to do so. So in terms of support, we're definitely going to roll this initiative out to all of Americas and ask them for their support in getting these devices for students. I think this is just one of many ways that we can touch the community. We launched Team Rubicon already, and I think this is another initiative. I think it's important to give people different opportunities because some things just speak to them. And I think by having these additional opportunities, it just allows us to engage the entire community at large. So happy to support you in any way we can, and looking forward to talking about this in a couple months and looking back and see how well we did together.
Thank you, Eddie. For those new on the call, IAMCP is the International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners. Eddie is the new president of that organization. VFI works very closely with IAMCP to engage in these policies and civic actions and philanthropic initiatives. Thank you, IAMCP. And I want to shout out for Laura Peters. She runs the virtual chapter network of IAMCP. We've had a lot of conversations about this. Thank you, Laura, for everything you do. And I know you're also doing a chapter meeting on MSSA, which is our hiring program for veterans. Thank you for doing that, Laura. And it's 3:31. Maybe I can turn it back over to Andrea or Amy to talk about any final learnings or resources or things you would like to talk about.
So I'm actually looking at some of your responses, which are pretty entertaining and interesting. I think my favorite one is working from home with children and not losing your mind, which I believe is a struggle for all of us in a lot of ways. You know, I'm personally loving being at home with my kids just because, you know, we live together, but there was so many things that we did from the start of our day to the end of our day, between after school activities and work and homework, that we didn't really, I felt like we didn't connect as frequently. So I'm actually really enjoying this time where I can sit back. So my kids are tweens and a teenager, 12 and 16. So imagine how much time my 16-year-old wants to spend with me, which is 0. So really being able to step back and have this time where I feel like I can reconnect with my kids, and as they're making me crazy and making me want to pull out my hair, that's where I'm kind of stepping back and thinking of that. Personally, what I've done is I actually asked them to generate a list of all of the activities that they were interested in doing. So, you know, we kind of went through it all, and it ranged from silly things like I want to make chocolate chip cookies to like experiments that they wanted to generate. And so we've just been running down that checklist, and we'll have a time each evening when we're spending as a family where we can do an activity together, you know, which we made, what are those, hot air balloons out of like a candle and a paper bag. And then we actually then created the same hot air balloons in Minecraft, because my daughter's way into Minecraft. So just like silly things like that, which I feel like is helping at least me to step back and like have fun with them when they are making me crazy. And it's stuff that they generated, so it's not as much pulling teeth, but it's really things that they had wanted to do. Amy, I don't know if you or anybody else has other strategies that they kind of want to share with how they're balancing between the two.
Well, go ahead, Amy.
I don't really have any. I'm particularly fortunate just because I have a 1-year-old who is able to. I still have childcare through family members that we're looping in. So, you know, everybody's just making it work. And sometimes she's here with me, and you know, I feel like it's been really kind of humanizing, as it has been mentioned, just to get to know people on calls and their families and their home lives as well.
Well, listen, I want to go back to Interconnection for one moment, because I went to their site the first time, and one of our big partners, one of our advisory task force members, I'm not sure if Mark Hoppers is on the call, but Mark, I will pick on you, but Avanade is doing an incredible program, and I know Anthony could probably tell us more about this, but Avanade has made a technology grant to Interconnection. Now, what that means is, as I understand it, they are dropping off devices, I don't know how many at a time, let's say 30 or 50 at a time, and those devices are being refurbished and then put back into the community. And they may do they call it a technology grant. I'm not sure if there's cash associated with that grant to help offset the cost of refurbishment. But if you are a Microsoft partner, if you are a small business owner, I hope you will reach out to Interconnection to determine if perhaps you could model this program after the Avanade program, which is donating some of your devices, giving a little cash to help offset the cost of refurbishment, and perhaps getting units back into your communities where it can go to school districts locally.
David, hi, I'm Mickey. I'm with Interconnection.
Oh, great. Hi, Mickey. How are you?
Hey, so I'd like to talk about the Avanade program because I helped put it together with Avanade CIO Bob Bruns, and it's completely brilliant, actually. What I love about it is Avanade is giving Interconnection on a regular basis all of their unused IT equipment. So we all know that you recycle through computers and laptops about every 3 to 5 years, and employees get new machines. Those retired machines come to Interconnection. And so those are the machines then that we refurbish, and we actually then make those available. We make machines then available to other nonprofits that align with Avanade's corporate social responsibility pillars having to do with youth and education. So recently, because of the COVID outbreak, Avanade decided to really step up what they were doing, and they asked us to start looking for any machines that we had. But here's the the rub is that with everybody working from home, very few corporate donors are at the office to be able to donate those machines. So we certainly went through all of our inventory and looked at what we have, and the ones that we would normally refurbish with the Avanade Tech program, they've all been given out. We gave out over 90 machines in the past 4 or 5 weeks, and those went to places like Kent Youth and Family Services, to families that are at home because the kids are suffering, or maybe the parents are suffering. I'm not exactly sure how that works. Cal Poly Pomona was another group that Avanade gave machines to. Another group called the Mona Bailey Foundation. So we were getting lots of requests, but at this point, our call out to you for the call of action is, we need more machines, because we're starting to go through, we're looking in all nooks and crannies all over the warehouse and getting all of them that we can find, but there's such a huge need. There's such a huge need. And so we can certainly, we would certainly appreciate you reaching out to us and talking with us about any machines that you can donate.
Mickey, thank you for that. Your name was mentioned by my Microsoft refurbishing team. Mr. Bostwick mentioned and actually sent me your mail. So thank you for everything you're doing. And I would like to relay a story. I was talking to one of our larger partners. I'm not going to call that person out or the partner name, but you know who you are. But this person mentioned they have 1,000 units sitting in their dock or warehouse or inventory that they are trying to recycle. Now, they may have, sometimes these units, they have to pull the hard drives out or something like that. But I'm just saying, if that's one partner I'm talking to, imagine if this community could get engaged and find 100 units to donate to the Interconnection program or Human IT or others in this space. So thank you very much, Mickey, Cheryl, Anthony from Interconnection, and we're happy to work with other vendors that are out there doing the same good work, but we cannot do it without devices. So people, folks, please try to donate if you can.
And to underscore the need, if I could relay one more anecdote, is, we do have some districts where the district themselves are sending out kind of paper packets to help students continue with their learning, just because the device situation at home is so, just because of that digital divide. So, we're definitely, the digital divide is real and the need for devices is real.
And I would say the other call to action, and I don't want to take away, but we will plan another Teals specific webinar where we will recruit. We need to recruit volunteers. I know this team has spoken of the need. If you just go to the chat box, you can see the activity on Teals and the need to support and a lot of offers to support. So we will do a program. One of our top partners, that's Blackbaud, that's Sally Ehrenfried from Blackbaud. They are one of our leading partners doing this in South Carolina. Sally, we're going to ask you to speak at the Teals webinar, but you may want to talk a little bit for 1 minute about what you're doing in South Carolina.
Thanks, David. Thanks, everyone. So we have been involved with Teals probably for the last, 4+ years or so. We started off with a very small cohort at Hanahan High School where we had 4 of our software engineers working with that particular high school, mostly because they had personal connections. They either had children who were attending or they lived near the school, and it just made it easier for them to swing by the school on their way into work so that they could teach a class and then head on to Blackbaud to complete their day. And really what that did is it grew from this small cohort of 4 engineers to a larger group of 5, and then that group grew to about 10 and then maybe even 15, and we ended up being in about 3 or 4 different schools across 3 different counties within the greater Charleston community. And I'll add, for those of you who maybe measure those unintended benefits, and we can talk more about this next month, is the fact that what we found is that those engineers who were teaching in Teals, once they actually came back into the building and were working at Blackbaud, were more inclined to mentor the more junior engineers on their teams and on other teams. So that really translated into some really tangible benefits for the company and for our engineering teams.
Thank you, Sally. That's a great story. I remember you told me that story in my office here when we first met. So thank you for your engagement with Teals. We will schedule that webinar. It will be one of the ones coming up. And I would say that the other webinar we are scheduling now is going to be with Microsoft OCP, which is we haven't picked the right executive yet, but just for future awareness, our next webinar will probably be on Teals, and then we will move into an OCP. It'll be more Microsoft specific, but we welcome folks on this call to join as well. So there's so much stuff in the chat box, it's hard for me to keep up, but I would say, are there any questions that you would like to ask Andrea or Amy while we have them on the call, or perhaps Interconnection while we have them?
And while people are typing their questions, this is Craig, who some of you know from Beekeeper Group. I saw some files going out in the chat. We are going to try to put all of the resources that have been shared. Thank you for sharing them in the chat. We're having some difficulty with Teams permissions and so on, but we'll put them on the VFI website and be able to share around links to those resources, as well as the slide deck that was.
And this webinar is being recorded, and we can send that around to those interested. Just let us know. We also have a weekly newsletter called the Executive Briefing. As soon as you join VFI, we'll send you that newsletter. If you're on this call, you'll likely get it. You can certainly unsubscribe if you'd like, but it's just a recap of the week's tech news, what VFI is doing, the issues we're engaged in, the programs like Teals, and our device donation drive. We just give you more information on these initiatives.
Quick question, David.
Yes, please.
So hi, David. This is Terrell Finnessy. I am the Vice President of the IAMCP Virtual Chapter. Oh. I serve under Laura Peters. This was an amazing, amazing event today. I just want to applaud all of you, Amy, Andrea, David, and Eddie Bayer. Just thank you all, and Sally, thank you all for what you do. I have a question. Now, we completed the poll, and my question is, will there be follow-up on some of the responses that were put into that poll?
Yes, that's our goal, is to kind of get a good sense as to what are the needs and the obstacles that are different organizations and different partners are experiencing. And so this way we can figure out how we can best and better support the organizations that are out there and really have a good sense of the needs that they have. There's lots of one-off stories that I hear, and so it's really important to understand, what is the true story of people experiencing on the ground.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And Terrell, I saw your question in the chat about Titus single parent mentoring STEM. We need computers for the students. Perhaps you can work directly with Interconnection. I'm not sure where you're based. I presume California, if you're close to Laura.
Yes.
And I do know that Eddie had mentioned Human IT is another vendor that is in this space. I just don't know I don't know much about them, but we just want folks to donate devices, whether it's right there in your community or Interconnection.
Definitely. So, I will reach out to both. Yes. Thank you.
And thank you for all you do on the virtual chapter. We love that program here at VFI.
Oh, thank you. We're having a great time serving all of our partners. Thank you.
And some folks have said they're having trouble getting into the poll. Maybe we can
So I have 8 responses thus far on the poll. I dropped in the link. I wasn't sure if maybe that helped it. So from the PowerPoint, for some reason, it's saying that it was not responding, but the link should be responsive at this moment. And hopefully, if that worked for you. The other thing I did read is that people are having some issues opening up the one pager I dropped in there, and that's something fantastic. Nice to hear that, Ryan. I tried to resave it with a different name to see if that would help the situation, but it sounds like people are still having an issue accessing it. So I'm just going to ask David if you or Doug or Craig would be able to share out that one pager to everyone, which has a long list of resources that we covered today and some additional resources that could be available. And then what I'll also do is I'll follow up with some educational resources, which sounds from the responses, those 8 different ones that I've seen so far in the poll, seems to be a trend that I'm seeing, that people are looking for additional educational information.
I love it. And I want to flag one more thing from Tyler Bowman at Velocio. He's tagged you and Amy on, they have a very large partner community in New Jersey and New York. So if you guys would connect with Tyler, he has been very engaged in VFI and IAMCP. In fact, I did 3 IAMC meet. I can't ever say that word, but we did 3 back-to-back meetings, New Jersey, New York, and DC, and Tyler was at every single one of them. So Tyler's very active. He's been a great partner and a great advocate. So please work with Tyler if you would. His thing is in the box. As we all value our time, I do not want to exceed our limit. I want to be wary of folks' calendars and time. I want to make one last offer for questions, comments, resources, etc. And thank you, John Nicolo. You've been a great partner with us as well. And I see Marion. Marion, it's great to see you. And I'm sorry I won't see everyone at Inspire this year, but we'll figure something out. We're working on that.
David.
Yes.
David, it's Mickey with Interconnection again.
Hey, Mickey.
Just as a final kind of a thing, if anybody ever starts to feel down or that they're not being able to cope with things, please come to our website, and on the very landing page, the very front page, you will see the most joyous picture of a little girl who has just been able to get online because of donated computers from the Avanade Tech Grant Program. So pop onto interconnection.org and get your smile du jour.
I love it. Mickey, thank you. I'm going to reach out to you separately. I look forward to working with your team, and we'll try to refer some folks to you. Andrea, Amy, any final word? You get the final word here. Andrea, you're on mute. There you go.
I was going to say if Amy wants to take the final word. I did put the word cloud up for the different responses that you guys have said so far. So thank you for all of that. And looks like resources and community computers definitely is some themes here. So I do want to thank all of you for the work that you are doing and have been doing. Team Rubicon, you guys are absolutely amazing. One of my favorite organizations that are out there. So thank you for all of everything that you do. Amy, anything else?
Thank you, everybody. This was a really energizing call. So thank you for being here and present.
And if I could close it up by just once again talking about Team Rubicon, Ryan Risley, who's on the call, gave a fantastic presentation a couple of weeks ago on a VFI webinar. He spooled up a program called Tech for TR. I know Eddie mentioned that. We're putting that out in the community. Please get engaged if you can help your neighbors. It's called Neighbors Helping Neighbors on Team Rubicon. It doesn't cost anything. You can help from the safety of your own home. You don't have to leave. You can go through call some folks that might need prescription medicines or, a carton of milk or whatever. Anyway, thank you, Ryan Risley. This has been great. And thank you to the Philanthropies team for all you guys do. And with that, I'm going to close it up. Thank you very much.
Great job. Fantastic.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.